started. All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is part of the Ohio Technical Center's webinar and podcast series. We appreciate you joining us today, and we have a ton of great information to share with you. I am Rachel Mann, and I will be moderating today's conversation, which will shine a light on the incredible opportunities that are available through Ohio Technical Centers, which you will hear referred to as OTCs across Ohio. We have an esteemed panel of OTC directors that you're going to hear from who are from various regions. First, we have Tara Shepard. We have Nick Lindberg, Laura Dowdell, and Evan Schaad. And today we're aiming to increase awareness of the technical programs and the unique training that OTCs offer, especially opportunities for business and industry partners, for our policymakers, but we're going to jump right in. So let's start off with a broad stroke. Can each of you introduce yourselves and your role, also describe your geographical region and what sets your location apart from others? And Tara, can you start it off for us?
Sure. I am Tara Shepard from the Apollo Career Center. We are located in Northwest Ohio, where I serve as the OTC director, or what we refer to as the director of adult programs. So my role is to oversee the administration of all of the programs for both traditional learners, non-traditional learners, and our business partners. So one of the things that I like to point out about us is that we're geographically blessed. And that's one of the things that sets us apart is ease of access, because we're right off all of the transportation corridors. So we're easily accessible to students and businesses right off of I-75, State Route 30 here in Northwest Ohio.
And Nick, you're welcome to jump in next.
Oh, you want me to go next? Okay. Nick Lindberg, I'm at Butler Tech. We're Butler County, Ohio. We're just north of Cincinnati. We span our whole county, but we serve all the surrounding counties as well. Claremont, Hamilton County, some students, Montgomery County, some students, Preble, and Warren County. So I oversee our adult education programs, our OTC programs. The whole goal for us is earn a credential and in the workforce in less than a year. We are very fortunate as well in being Southwest Ohio. We have a denser population, but we have access to 75 corridor as well, and it's hopping with business and manufacturing. So a lot of our manufacturing and healthcare are just booming right now in our area.
All right, and Laura, if you want to jump in next.
Sure. So I'm the director of EHOVI Career Center. EHOVI is actually an acronym that stands for Erie, Huron, and Ottawa County, which are the three primary counties that we serve. Kind of like Nick and Tara, we're also geographically blessed. We're just off of the Turnpike and Route 2. We're in the Northeast region. However, we're fairly close to the border of the Northwest region. One unique thing about our location is we have some interesting occupational programs and partnerships with business based on the Lake Erie tourism that we're near up here on Lake Erie. So we're most people, when they hear of us, they think, oh, how close are you to Cedar Point? We're about 10 miles south of Cedar Point.
Nice, fantastic. And Evan.
Right. Now, I come from Washington County Career Center, southeast corner of the state, Marietta, Ohio. We are in probably a less dense region of the state. We have two great assets in our area, the Ohio River and a rail system. We get a lot of barge traffic that moves through that's crucial to our economy. We have several of our industrial programs that have been developed based on our partnerships with the employers and the polymer petrochemical industry with the plants that are up and down the Ohio River in our area. And so we're able to partner with them to provide training to their workers. And like the others said, we have access to I-77, US 50, not too far from I-70. So we are very accessible, and we are very proud partner with the workforce in our area.
All right, and thank you. And It's nice to hear where each of you are from. Thank you for being here today. And could each of you talk about the types of businesses in your region and how you tailor your programs for incumbent worker training? And Nick, if you want to start off on how you approach this, and then if each of the other panelists want to jump in after.
As I said, right now the Miami Valley corridor is booming in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. So right now we are opening a robotics lab to manage that, and we're updating our industrial maintenance technology lab. And they'll come out there with several different credentials if they would like. Everything from Moto Man Yaskawa, which is right up 75 from us, which is the blue arm for people, to yellow arms, to red arms, Fanuc, and all those credentials will then go directly in the manufacturing pipeline and do automation and robotics. The other side of that is, how do you fix anything? So a lot of our industries have lines, automation lines, and industrial maintenance. It keeps all your working lines up and running. Everywhere from Cleveland Cliffs, which is huge, P&G, which is huge down here. They need all their lines and factory floors up and running. So we produce workers there. We give customized training to them to go into those workspaces at the same time as providing general knowledge to work in other industries along with that. The other area we are seeing a huge trend in is healthcare. As we know, through the pandemic, healthcare workers there is a shortage right now. So right now we are working through our high schools to pathway high school students into credentials, everywhere from LPN, the LPN RN bridge to ADNs, STNA, phlebotomist, and medical assistants. We just landed a contract with UC Health where their MAs will take work during the day, and at night they'll pay for them to come to our LPN program. And after about a year and a half, they'll come out as LPN, certified LPNs, or licensed practical nurses. So interesting there, all the hospital networks around us, they need employees. So they're willing to work with us, share space, share materials, and even hire and train their own, which is different in the last 6 years coming out of the pandemic there. Lastly, in Butler County, transportation is our biggest hurdle for our students, for our employees. There's no real solid transportation. So for us, we have put in a driver's ed program to help our high school students and even adults get their license to go to work. At the same time, like several others here have CDL programs. All of our logistics programs off 75, logistic companies off 75, they need CDL drivers to move product. Such in-demand logistics right now that is booming as well. So our CDL program is expanding and growing. So solving a lot of those issues for our local businesses. There's a lot of demand, a lot of ask, and we're trying to meet it. How we're trying to meet it, because we're not getting enough adults necessarily, is we are starting pipelines from our high school students and building pathways on and off ramps for credentials that they can go on to a 2-year, 4-year institution if they'd like, or then go directly into the workforce. So there's opportunities for any student who wants to go in any of those: advanced manufacturing, healthcare, transportation at our Career Center.
Hey, I'll jump in next. Thank you, Nick. So at EHOVY, we do have a mix, as Nick also has, with the manufacturing healthcare. We do add in quite a bit of the service industries in our area. As I mentioned, the Lake Erie tourism. So we put out maybe a lot more massage therapists and estheticians than other areas, just based on the number of spas and vacation areas that are around. Along with, we have one of the only marine trades industries. As far as we have a program for that, but we also do a lot of customized training for the marinas. One of the things we do a lot of is called PICO training, and it's a special tool that they use, and we make sure that they can come on our campus and receive the training they need to keep their marinas up to date. With our healthcare, we also, we found a need in our area. A lot of the workforce, the hospitals were getting frustrated. Their LPNs were quitting to come to school for that bridge LPN to RN program. So we thought, well, that's not any good. We need the LPNs to continue working while they're going to school. And so we started an evening only program so that the LPN students can work during the day and then come to school for 5 hours each night, and made the program a little bit longer. So they're not done in a year. However, they're able to stay in the workforce. And what we're finding is many of the hospitals are paying for them to help them to obtain that RN credential. We just recently, very excited here with Fisher Titus Medical Center, which is a local hospital, received a $4 million grant for 4 years to help even get more students trained for the RN need in our rural area. So we're very proud of those partnerships with businesses and making sure that our scheduling of our classes are really helping the businesses to retain the workforce while they come to us and continue to get further training. But outside of that, just really meeting with business and industry, a lot of our manufacturing businesses, we do a lot of the small stuff for them, but that's the thing that makes a big difference in their areas. Their rigging training, teleskid, telehandling training, that they just want to send everyone here and get that taken care of, and we can help them maintain their training records and make sure that their employees are kept up to date.
In Marietta, I mentioned the kind of that presence of the plastics plants industry, and three of our 3 large industrial programs, chemical operator, industrial maintenance, and instrumentation electricity, have all been kind of built based on the needs of these plants and these facilities. So it gives area residents, young people and adults, the opportunity to have more than one entry into these facilities. These are strong employers. These are very stable employers. They've been great community partners for a long time. We have always circled back. I know we'll talk more about advisory committees later, to getting feedback and updating those programs, modifying, like Nick was mentioning at Butler, new equipment, getting more modern with what we're offering. In the healthcare side, we too are partners with our healthcare, 2 major hospital systems in the area. Surgical technologists is a big demand in our area. So we are currently running a day and evening cohort so that we can serve more students with those. We're also involved in upskilling hospital employees, healthcare employees. CDL is a large program. HVAC technician and welding, those are 2 very much in demand occupations in all regions, and ours is no exception. So those programs are very popular and very successful right now.
Great. And I think I'll just really echo what all the previous directors had talked about. But here at Apollo in Northwest Ohio, we're very fortunate to serve a lot of major industries. So Northwest Ohio and Lima is home to a lot of advanced manufacturing. Like Nick, we have the Procter & Gamble Lima plant. So that's the world's largest green plant in the world, located right here. But we're also home to General Dynamics Land Systems. So we are home of the Abrams tank. So we have a lot of opportunities there. But then we also have a lot of plastics. So we're also home to Plastipac. And then 2 of the largest refineries in the United States. So we are Synovus, Lima Refinery, and then we also have Nutrient. So we have a lot of chemical plants right here in our backyard. We have a lot of industry that runs up and down I-75. So along with the manufacturing, whether that's manufacturing as far as chemicals are concerned, detergents, but we also have a large automotive industry here. So Lima is home to the Ford engine plant. So we have a lot of workers that come for upskilling and training. We have Dana, and we also have Honda regionally located. So those manufacturing buckled along with a lot of our medical. So we have Mercy Health, Lima Memorial Health Systems. And then we also have a large employer, Charles Rivers Laboratories, that does a lot of research. So they cross into both the traditional medical as well as some of the manufacturing and processing. So one of the things that we're fortunate to do as the local OTC is really help them 2 ways. One, maintain a pipeline of skilled workers by offering the traditional trade certificates and credentialing that they would need to remain competitive. But at the same time, as the population as a whole is declining, how can we better upskill those employees? So we're able to work with all of those industries and say, okay, how can we take the person that maybe works in production, cross-train them or upskill them into one of the skilled trades, whether that's industrial maintenance, whether that's electrical, whether that's HVAC, to just really get them into more of a multi-skilled employee. So we've really seen a lot of that need in our area. And one of the things that we're really focusing on now is we're undergoing a building project. That's called the Regional Public Safety Training Center. So that's really great for our first responders, our public safety, because we also have a large presence in that space as well. But that's also freed up a lot more of our building space to expand some of our apprenticeships. So whether that's HVAC, electrical, or industrial maintenance. So we have just about over 100 apprentices that come here for the full 4 year. So we're happy that Ohio Technical Centers are now offering those full apprenticeship programs. And we found that to be very helpful to not only the community members, but to businesses that are trying to compete on that global marketplace.
What amazing opportunities, both for adult learners, but also for business and industry to be able to partner and to be able to use these centers to offer training, which brings us to our next question. And Laura, I'll have you start for us on this one. Can you dive into the specific types of business and industry training you provide, and why should businesses choose your OTCs for this training?
Sure. Well, our business and industry training, I'd say the number one reason that they should pick us is because, and I know the other director is going to echo this too, we are very, we always approach each business with the thought process of, what exactly do you need? Like, let's dive in and really look at your specific needs and create a plan together. It's not a one size fits all, here's our course, and if you only need half of it, then that's, we really customize exactly what the business wants. So if they tell us, listen, we need, a 50-hour course and it needs to cover these things, we may even come back and say, you know what, you really need a few more hours or maybe a little less than you are looking at. We really try to help them dive into the objectives that they want their workforce to learn, because it's very important to kind of point out, and I think everyone will say this, we work with that beginning worker to help upskill them, but we also retrain and refocus their current workforce. Sometimes there's just really, they can't find maybe employees on the street. And so they're like, okay, let's look and see what we have internally. Who can we grow from within? And I think that our Ohio Technical Centers are really built to customize that experience for that business. We also, a lot of times, will help with kind of, just assessing their current staff to kind of see, where they might fit better, where their aptitudes might be. So some of the training that we do, one of the ones that we do a lot around here, we have companies, they're required to do maybe the drug-free workplace training, or they want to do some enhanced leadership skills for their middle management, their supervisors. So we did a lot of leadership training. We also sometimes will come in and just keep track of when a business might need something expiring. And this is a big one, like in our more in our healthcare area, we maintain the records for their DODD, which is like their medication authorization. So we train their workers to be able to administer medications, and we make sure that they keep on their training schedules. So we're able to do a lot of those things, or little things that make a big difference, to that HR person at that business, to make sure that their employees have their current work set. We also do a lot with public safety. With the same thing, just offering, we have a lot of small departments in our area, so just making sure that we meet their training needs as well with fire training or EMT, first responder type training.
Like Laura, we're definitely going to be engaged with the employers when it comes to customized training, and that's really the key word, is customized. Our staff, we are very fortunate, we have great instructional staff, great management staff here that's been out in the facilities, worked in healthcare, worked in our industry, worked in our plants in our region, and they have the background knowledge, but they also recognize the uniqueness of many of these employers, and they'll certainly engage and determine what it is they need. And we do have cases where companies will send folks to us and they will slot them into our traditional programs, and then we will customize different programs for others, so they're only getting what's needed or focusing on what's important, so we can certainly make the best use of their time. Some of the things that we do, we offer some new hire training for some of the facilities. When they hire a new cohort of employees, they'll actually spend a few days on our campus as part of their safety and procedure training. Certainly, we do a lot of upskilling. We offer safety training, ranging from anything with scaffolding to procedures, writing and implementing procedures for hazardous waste, things like that. consulting. We're in a rural community, so we have a lot of agricultural entities. So we have an employee who will engage and offer agricultural planning and analysis to our local farmers who are interested in that service. We certainly know that the employers' needs are always changing, so we're always out and engaging and determining what we can do, what we can expand to offer that will meet their needs.
That's great. I'll just really continue with Laura and Evan on both of those things, because I think it's really the niche of the Ohio Technical Center to really be in tune with the industry that's around them and really understanding what their needs and wants are, and sometimes helping them understand that maybe everything's not for everyone. And one of the things we always talk about here at Apollo is we always under promise and over deliver. So we're not promising things that we don't have the history and the track record of performing. So for us, it's just not a shot in the dark. They're calculated moves and risk where we can really help that business really grow their workforce. And we do everything from the trainings that both the previous directors had talked about, and I know that Nick will talk about too. But one of the things we help them do is also track down funding for those. So we keep them connected to the resources that the state's offering through the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation, through our local workforce investment boards, through our local Ohio Means Jobs, getting those employers really connected, because we're the voice of familiarity when we're telling them, apply for state funding, apply for county funding. There's always that, like, wait a minute, are they going to come into my business and tell me how, to do things, where that's not the case at all. So we can almost serve as liaison for some of those things and really be a partnership in their training. So some of the things that we've done, along with the safety training, all of those specific to our industry in this region, we do a lot of public safety. We do a lot of medical training, but we also get hot and heavy into the electrical and mechanical, especially with Procter & Gamble being so close. So we're fortunate enough to currently be partnering with Jobs Ohio for an expansion of their adding the beads to the Procter & Gamble line right here at the Lima plant. So we're fortunate to be a partner in that training with Procter & Gamble. And that's not the first time that we've really helped businesses partner with or been a part of a collaborative or regional approach for solutions. So when General Dynamics was gearing up and they were increasing their welder workforce, we partnered with them through Jobs Ohio and Ohio Means Jobs and was their training partner to onboard the 150 plus welders that they needed internally through their incumbent workforce, but also working with the external employers to bring people in to get that training, to help fulfill those orders from the Department of Defense and through just the global community that's requesting things for our local businesses. And it's a lot of times people don't really realize the amount of export and the amount of manufacturing per capita that our regions have. So Ohio is an economic powerhouse, and we're happy to be a part of that.
So they seem to all cover it. Just to recap some things, I agree with all of them. We definitely learn the business needs and customize our training and curriculum to meet their needs. By far, the piece that Tara talked about, we really are the networker amongst businesses. We run advisory groups where they get together, they share ideas. They're competitors, but at the same time, when they get together, businesses work together, share resources, or even say, oh, you do that, I do this, how can we work together? So we're the network glue through our businesses in our county, which is fun to watch, even though sometimes they are competitors. So that's fun. And then lastly for us is, with customized training and working with businesses, we have our own full-time programs that we can kind of work in curriculum and different to meet their needs. But also we can go out in the field and deliver training if that's what a business wants. So we are not come to our school and learn the training here. We are flexible to do training wherever is needed. We have 2 hospitals that actually open up almost like it is a health lab, hospital rooms. We can do simulations. We can train up their staff. They want something specific that they just want all their nurses trained on. Or we have a few doctors in our program that teach. They go in there and they teach it, right? So we can bring the education to them. You could bring the employees. We have the education here. And then also, as I said, one of the strongest things is when businesses are heavily involved with their OTC, they have open networks, not only to other businesses, as Tara said, to the state, to the local Ohio Means Job Centers. They have quite a bit of county resources, but we work with all those entities so we can connect them. So it's a win-win.
It definitely is, and so many amazing opportunities from each of your centers. And the next one you may have touched on a little bit, but Evan, I'll start off with you. Can you discuss the technical programs your OTC offers and the role that the employers play in shaping these programs, which may include apprenticeship training or other partnerships that you've developed with employers?
Sure. For our industrial programs, we have a few of them that employers use as a registered apprenticeship, just like some of the other folks have already mentioned, where perhaps maybe they'll hire a new employee, an industrial mechanic. They may spend the first 2 years while they're on the job at our facility 2 days a week, or in the evening, if that's an option as well, going through one of our traditional programs or two of our traditional programs. All of our programs rely heavily on business input through a formal relationship, the program advisory committees that we have in place. We have regular advisory committee meetings that cover each of our programs. And it really is a very engaging discussion. It's not just, hey, let's just have a quick review of what we're doing. We're touring our labs. We're seeing equipment in action. We're reviewing curriculum. We're looking at the most recent meeting and looking at the feedback and seeing how that's been implemented and what's been positive and what's grown and developed with that. So really those businesses, employers in our area have a major role in all of our programs. We're not offering a program unless we have the support of our regional employers.
Yeah, that's a great point, Evan. And I'll just piggyback off of that. I really feel that as OTCs or Ohio Technical Centers, that we're more employer centric. So a lot of what we do is taking that customized training and really, as OTCs, turning those into training norms. And that's how we get into program development. So if we're continually running customized training programs, and then we identify that, hey, that's a regional need, or we need to help create or maintain a pipeline, then that's how we just formulate programs. So a lot of the technical training programs that we offer at the OTCs, we're always held to 3 standards: completion, placement, and credentialing by our institutional accreditors. So everything that we do starts really with the end in mind. Like, what are the employer needs? What are the needs of the region? How can we help people make a sustainable wage? How can we help our businesses continue to thrive and be relevant? And one of the things that I know that I always like to point out that's so interesting to me is 6 years ago, we had our electrical companies, a couple of them come together and say, hey, we need more electricians. We're getting to a certain age. We need more we need more. Just period. So we brought all of our regional, both union and non-union electrical employers to the table. And we said, okay, what can we do? How can we be a part of the solution to help in this area? So I tell you, 7 years ago, we had 7 electrical apprentices, and now we have over 130. And that's just one of our apprenticeship programs. So now we have electrical, industrial maintenance, tool and die. We're just starting HVAC. And then Apollo is also home to Ford Motor Company related technical training. So the UAW also does their training right here at Apollo. So all of the technical trainings we have are specifically geared around business and industry. How can they get those industry credentials? And that means something, that they have value attached to them, just not maybe a pay increase, but are actually adding value back to the business and adding value back to the community. And we always say here at Apollo, we do things to get people next ready to be a positive impact in the community. And I kind of like what Nick talked about earlier, on ramps and exit ramps, both for folks just graduating high school, those that have been into the workforce, but also to employers that have had employees that, maybe have shown themselves committed and faithful. And let's take that extra step and fund you to go back to school and increase some of those skills. So we've really been fortunate to see all of that really play out. And then we've had a couple opportunities to respond directly to industry wants and needs. Like, for example, we are heavy in the LPN side. And so we've always had 2 start dates, and they said, we need our people as STNAs to continue to work, but how can we allow them to work and come back to school and maintain that academic rigor? Because we have the same academic standards as the community college and universities do. So we have all of those outcomes attached to us. So we thought, let's slow it down. So now we offer a part-time program. And then with us being located right off of the I-75 corridor, obviously logistics is huge. We've had a CDL program that's one of our mainstays that's been around for a long time, but we heard from employers, hey, we're having trouble getting the people tested. The state of Ohio has privatized testing facilities, but that's where we identified the backlog. So the Board of Education was very good in our superintendent, where we can look at how can we partner with employers and come up with a solution. So now we're one of a handful of career centers that offers an actual testing center for CDL in addition to our program. So we're always looking at creative ways to be a part of the collaboration and a part of the solution, and to support those employers in the community in any way that we can.
Well, Tara just took everything I was going to say and said, no, absolutely. And for us, developing new programs to support our business partners is always going to be a practice in OTC, right? It's not the same old curriculum over and over. We continually have those advisory committees that Evan was talking about. The more active our business partners are in there, the more actively we can change our curriculum to meet their needs. And at the same point, they have access to our students, and our heavily involved companies always seem to hire our high performing students first. And it's just amazing. But at the same time, they have that influence on, they're coming out with the skills needed to be successful in their company. And so once again, a win-win. That business involvement is crucial to what we do at OTCs. So I encourage that across the board.
And I have an example of the program development from those advisory committees. We last year had a number of employers say, listen, we love your trades programs. They're great. You have HVAC, you have welding, you have maintenance, all these things. But we have a number of companies that do a lot of big building in our area. And so we started a building trades program. And honestly, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's got drywall, a little bit of plumbing, some HVAC, but that's really what the employers wanted. And they told us that through their advisory meetings. And so we started the building trades program. It's going wonderful. And I think both Nick and Tara said this, really focusing on that completion, making sure that they earn a credential or a license depending on their program. And I'm sitting here, I looked at our stats yesterday, and 96% of our students who finished last year left with a credential or a license. And so I think that those are the ways that we show our businesses that we're serious about what we do, because our students are coming out to them with the licensure, the entry-level credentials, what they need to be able to work in the field.
What an amazing example of symbiotic relationships where everyone's benefiting from this. It's the employers are building their workforce, the students are getting jobs, adult learners. If I ever decide to switch careers, I'm moving to Ohio to take one of these programs because they sound amazing. And next, we're going to turn it back to you, Tara. Can you explain the success of your technical programs in terms of completion and placement rates, and how this benefits employers in developing a competent workforce? And I also want to mention, Tara, I love the next ready. That is such an amazing way of putting it, because with adult education, it really is what's next. It may be that you're having, as you said, and as Evan said, multiple on and off ramps, but what is that next step?
Well, and I think that really the completion and placement benchmark that we get held to at the end is really a testament to that. And I wish I could say I made up the next ready, but I didn't. So it was interesting because we had new leadership, about a new superintendent come in 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I can't put my number on it, but just him being a fresh eyes and a fresh set of eyes to look at career technical education, especially what we do here as a whole. And it's our superintendent, Keith Horner. And he said, in talking to everyone, it's not one specific thing that career technical education, whether it's on the secondary side or the post-secondary side, prepare students for it's whatever's next for them. So we really adopted that Next Ready with our marketing department. And that is the vision now of Apollo Career Center, specifically the technical center as well, because that really, with completion, it really shows our employers when they finish, they have completed a program of study that the employer had, one, input on, but two, they can see measurable outcomes. So it's our goal to put out competent entry-level employees. Obviously, if they're more skilled, they're more advanced, that's great. We want those things, but we know that, we say we're the hands-on people. So we really give people an opportunity to do things, real life, real world experiences with real technology that's right here in the labs. And then I'll kind of piggyback off what Nick said. I call us the road show. So you will see Apollo classes going on here at our campus, but you may see us in 5 or 6 different locations. So when somebody completes a program at the technical center, it doesn't matter, that same level of quality and that standard is there upon completion. And then that rolls right into, you can complete, but now can you pass the industry credentialing or licensure, depending on what your program is that that final stamp that yes, you have the skills that are needed. And I think that placement is a direct linkage back to the business. And Nick mentioned or alluded to this a little bit earlier, is the stronger connection that the employers have with the technical center, the more likely it is that they're going to employ the students, because they understand the value, they understand, the curriculum that's being developed is a real world, real life curriculum that is something that's being used in the marketplace today, not 10 years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago if it's still relevant, but it makes sure that everything is still as up to date as possible. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the Ohio Technical Centers, through our institutional accreditors, we're held to those rates of placement, credentialing, and completion. So we're not just taking people for the sake of taking people. We're making sure that, okay, Rachel, if you would like to go back into this career change, is it something that you really want to do? Is it going to be valuable for your time and the employer's time? Because are you just taking something for the sake of taking it, or is this something that is really going to help you get to that next level? So I think we do a really good job of helping people navigate that, because so many people get to a point in their life and they're not sure what's next for them or what do they like to do. So the Career Center or your technical center is a great place to start, because sometimes, I like what Laura said, you get a little bit of this and you get a little bit of that. And it kind of opens up and shows you that there are different pathways in different fields.
I think a big piece that people don't understand about OTCs, and everybody's touched on a little bit, is we are held accountable. We're held accountable not only at the state level, but at the federal level. We are governed by the Ohio Department of Higher Education, the same department that governs all of our universities, all of our colleges. So we have standards we have to hit. Perkins, it's a federal measure that funds career technical schools. We have measures that have to hit it. We are federally accredited to be able to offer these programs. So they come in and monitor that. So we are held accountable to a high standard. Therefore, that's why we want, results from our instructors and results from our business being involved. But as Tara focused on, is placement. If we're not educating them, credentialing them, and placing them in the workforce, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And I'll take our OTC placement numbers over any 2 or 4 year institution. Not that they don't do great work, because that's where I came from, but it is, looking at our numbers, it is incredible. I said I average 89 to 93% placement rate in the career field they train year in, year out. That is incredible to me. And I know I'm not alone. They are across the board as well. Last piece I want to talk about is, not only are we held accountable, but our programming is held accountable to remain in high demand career fields. So these career fields programs we offer, they're high demand. And that comes from working with the state, working with our local businesses and our own communities to produce those. And we're held accountable to those high demand career fields as well. And that's why we implement that. And that is why we have such a high placement rate, is because they are high demand. We need this. Somebody mentioned earlier about Ohio just booming in manufacturing and industrial and healthcare. It's because we're producing those workers to support that. And that's because we are driven our programming to meet their needs. So that's kind of my 2 cents on our whole held accountable, our placement rates, our numbers, completion they talked about. But I can have students complete a program, but if they're not in the workforce working, that's why Tara focused on placement being so crucial. I will second that 100%, because if you don't use it or apply it, is it helping us? So.
Yeah, and a great example of that, Nick, is the way that a lot of students, and I know all of you, my fellow directors on here, students come back to us for that next step. We've really created those pathways. Tara mentioned, STNA to LPN. I mentioned the RN. Another great example I have of that, we have a student come through our Fire 1, Fire 2 program, they're a career firefighter. They want to add their EMT and their paramedic as well, because that really benefits their local department. And I think a lot of that, one thing we really haven't said tonight that's really important, I think it's because we teach them, it's not just the book learning to pass that test, but they are getting hands-on training with us. They're in labs with simulation. We have you're right in that squad. You think you're going down the road, but you're really in our lab in a simulated squad. But that's the kind of training and the situations we provide that I feel really makes our students, that's why they're staying here and completing. It's why they're passing their test, because they're really getting that hands-on experience in their training.
The accountability that Nick touched on, if those placement rates, those graduation rates are not where they need to be, we have to show immediate evidence of action steps that we're taking. So those are not things that we just develop a long-term plan to improve on. Those are things we address immediately if we find ourselves with a rate that's not up to the standard that we're being held to. Our school, I'm sure, is not unique with the other career centers. We have staff dedicated to placement services, so we will help students. We will keep them in the loop with what's available in the area. We'll arrange opportunities for them to meet employers, for employers to visit us, for our programs, our classes, cohorts to visit employers so that they are ready to enter the workforce when they're completed their training or while they're still undergoing their training. Our certificate alone has a reputation that really stands for itself as well. Certainly we, like Laura, we're offering a lot of industry recognized credentials. We're adding credentials that are needed in the changing workforce, but we also know that we have employers in our region that will look and say, hey, I see that you've completed this program at Washington County Career Center. And that alone says something that speaks volumes because of the long held high standards of completion of placement rates.
And to continue that conversation on accountability measures, all OTCs must be accredited by an agency that's approved by the Department of Education. Evan, we'll stick with you. Can you share what agency your accreditor is and why this is important?
We use, at Washington County, we use ACCSC. That is the Accrediting Commission for Career Schools and Colleges. They're based in Arlington, Virginia, and they are nationally recognized and authorized by the Department of Education. And that's an extremely important component for us to operate. That allows our students to be able to have access to financial aid. So that's obviously financial assistance is important for students when they're trying to access training upskills. So we take pride in that accreditation. That accreditation is really an ongoing process that it just engages in a lot of self-reflection, review, high standards. We have to show evidence that we're engaged with our business community. We have to have compliant program advisory committee meetings. We have to make sure that our student services are in compliance. So there's a lot of things that go with accreditation. And they're in place to make sure that we're doing the best we can do, that we're doing the job that we need to do. We also have, as I think Nick mentioned, the Ohio Department of Higher Education also has standards in place that we adhere to because we're authorized to do what we do here in the great state of Ohio. And we have programmatic accreditors as well, maybe a medical assist program. CDL program is under the governance of the Ohio Department of Public Safety. So we are engaged in compliance in all of our programs, and that's an ongoing process. And if we find ourselves with standards that where maybe one is more stringent than the other, we're always going to adhere to the most strenuous component of compliance.
That's great, Evan. And I will echo everything that he said about compliance, because I feel like that's one thing though, because we are so compliance heavy. That's one of the things though that I feel like aligns OTCs so closely to the business world, because coming from industry myself, and a lot of the instructors come directly from industry. All the ones that are programmatic instructors come directly from industry. They're so used to those industry driven regulations. So when we get to things like an institutional accreditation site visit, while the concept to them is new because it's education, the process is not. It's voluntary quality control where they're going through every aspect. So here at Apollo, the Council on Occupational Education is our institutional accreditor. So we just went through this past October our comprehensive site visit where we were awarded the Max Award of Reaffirmation. So I'm glad that that will be behind us for another 7 years or so. But it's really holding us as an OTC accountable to those with COE, those 10 standards of accreditation, where they're going through everything from the way that we advertise, the way that we run programs, the way we hire instructors, credentialing them, to do we have the, specific resources that are needed for students to succeed? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the facilities and the support? So we're really fortunate to be able to go through that process. And then, like Evan said, of course, our programs have to be approved by the Ohio Department of Higher Education. And then it trickles down to each programmatic accreditor that has to line up with each one of the credentials that we're offering.
And I also have a COE accreditation like Tara does, and I echo all of those things. It's always a focus, and I believe it helps us make us be great at what we do because we are compliant, and those are good things to have.
Butler Tech is COE accredited as well. We went through it a year ago and got the maximum accreditation also. I wouldn't say it's a pleasure to go through, Tara, but it definitely makes you reevaluate your practice, and it's like a continuous improvement process. So definitely thankful. You learn a lot, you make yourself better to continue to produce good outcomes.
And I know throughout the webinar, you've mentioned some of your partnerships with other agencies. Nick, can you elaborate on how your center partners with entities such as Jobs Ohio or Ohio Means Jobs or other agencies to really drive business in Ohio?
Yeah, definitely. One of our big economic drivers is Cincinnati Ready. Adam Jones, we work very closely with about bringing business and talent to our region. Ohio Jobs, it does the same thing. They're more geared out of Columbus as well, but those partnerships definitely build and drive our economic progress in our area. And then locally for our students, Ohio Means Jobs, we work with to gain WIOA funding for students to go back to school or upskill displaced workers. There's a lot of resources out there and supports in place. And then even lower at the community level, local community foundations and churches, all kinds of other organizations that support our students so they're successful. But definitely working with wraparound services that I'm talking about there, Butler County and OMJ, Ohio Means Jobs. That supports our student network. And then there's economic drivers like Jobs Ohio, OMJ, that helps as well. And then like Cincinnati Ready really helps with the business acquisition side of it and training. As I said, I heard Tara talk about P&G, Procter & Gamble, and their Jobs Ohio grant for training. Those are crucial, and we're able to support those identities when a company comes into Ohio by working with them to create a workforce or even upskill a workforce for the new technology. So vital to what we do. And once again, we're that network piece that we work with all those different levels of government to make that happen.
Yeah, and same here at Ehovy. And I want to point out that, kind of that restructure with the Office of Workforce Transformation, we're also seeing a lot of great support at the state level with some new grants that have come out this year that are really flexible for OTCs to use to really benefit students and employers when needed. The Work Ready and the Talent Ready that both came out this year are really vital to helping us to help students you might have a student maybe apply for financial aid and it doesn't quite cover enough and they're left with a little bit of a payment. And so being able to use some of those grant funds through the state to support that student who maybe is just kind of in between. They're not quite in that 200% poverty level, but they're really struggling to provide for a family. And they need to get a new job or enhance their skills to really get a sustainable wage for their family. We've seen a trend of a lot of employers paying not only for students to come to our programs, but also paying them while they're sitting at school. And that's an interesting trend. I've seen that a lot with our police academy students. And I really just feel that speaks to the fact of there's such a need for police officers in Ohio, that we're starting to see that happen more and more.
We're definitely very fortunate to have the great partners across the state we do. We're also fortunate as Ohio Technical Centers. We're very engaged with our legislators in the state. So we have great relationships. They're supportive of what we do. They recognize the value and they're open to feedback and listening to things when we share the needs, things that can help us offer our services. I know we touched a little bit on the partnerships with Ohio Means Jobs, the workforce development boards. OTCs are engaged, they're partners, they're active when there are meetings from the Workforce Development Board, Ohio Means Jobs, OMJ centers when they have their regional partner meetings. And we have our staff here at our school, they're familiar with helping businesses complete incumbent worker training applications. They're familiar with the tech cred process. So there are resources out there. We've made sure that we are prepared to help, as I think Tara mentioned earlier, just really help guide them through that process and be there every step of the way so they can take advantage of the resources. We have great support from Columbus and we're very appreciative of that.
I will definitely echo what all of them said. We're very fortunate to have, and we're fortunate to have been able to partner directly with Jobs Ohio, this being our second project with them. But I think it all goes back to just, making deposits as an OTC before you expect to make withdrawals. And I think that holds true for our local employers. But at the same time, the economic development folks, being at the table for them, if they need statistics, they need resources, they need to bring said company around that we're not allowed to know whom they are, exploring Ohio, just showing them and being able to be a model for what the state has to offer. And, the a different leg of the education system that's a little different than what's traditionally displayed. But, we're very fortunate to have a great relationship with our local legislators, the Governor's Office of Workforce Transformation, the Department of Development, and being able to push. Sometimes I say we're boots on the ground. So we hear about maybe expansion projects, ideas and thoughts coming from smaller businesses or medium-sized businesses that want to take it to that next level. So we're also able to, on the backside, push those ideas up through our local economic development folks, or in our area, the RGP, the Regional Growth Partnership, and that will take those to Jobs Ohio and help them kind of, navigate and decide what's best for the state, what's best for Ohioans. And to be able to be a part of that, along with utilizing Ohio Means Jobs on a regular basis for not only businesses, but people off the street that decide that, hey, they want to come back to school. It's a great opportunity to be a part of that community connection.
I forgot to mention one more. I know multiple OTCs are doing across the state, which is relatively new. I take great pride in is we are working more with the opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. So adults with disabilities, bringing them in and giving them training and credentials to go out and be productive citizens in the workforce. And it's been really a lot of hard work, but really rewarding work. We have multiple programs, Project Life, Project Search, in our buildings and in our programs. And it's great. As I said, I know it's been a recent push, the OOD working with us, and there's other career centers doing even more than Butler Tech is. But that is something new of we're here for all. If you want training or upskill or even basic training, we can give that to them. But it's fun working with the OOD folks. It's been a pleasure.
That is amazing. And we have covered so much already. And what I would like to do to wrap up is to do a spitfire round on why partners should choose your OTC when there are so many post-secondary training opportunities out there. So Evan, if you can kick this one off for us. Oh, and I think, there we go.
We're affordable, our programs are short-term, they lead to employment. We have the evidence that shows that. And we talked already about some of the off-ramps. If you're interested in additional training down the road, there will be articulation agreements. The Ohio Department of Higher Education is supporting many initiatives that allow students to go on and use their training at the OTC to lead to further education. But we certainly can serve you now where you're at. We want you to meet with our student services and leverage the services, the funding that's available.
I would agree with all of that. And I would say that if I could say just a few things, I would say that we are nimble and we're flexible, and that we are designed to be able to move at the speed of business. So just partners keeping that in mind, and we offer real world experience and real world opportunities. And anyone wanting to know more about any Ohio Technical Center, whether they're in Northwest Ohio or wherever they may be, we have a great resource, ohiotechnicalcenters.com, where they can get on there, look where they are in their region, and it kind of gives a nice layout of who we are and what we do.
Yeah, if you're passionate about that career field, we'll get you the training and the credentials to go work in that career field in less than a year. The big piece, and I know Laura brought it up, is where you're not going to sit in a classroom and just get lectured to. You're going to do hands-on learning. You're going to do work-based learning. You're going to be out in clinical sites. You're going to be out on rides. You are going to learn it before you're in a career field, and then we'll bring employers to you for a career. So.
And I'll close it off with also saying, I know all of us keep our admissions process simple but informative. If you're interested in coming, we will get you through an easy process to make sure what program's right for you and let you know the steps you need to take to get you set up so you can get to our quick, affordable training.
Excellent. And for the folks who are listening in, thank you so much for joining us. If you had questions that were not answered throughout today's webinar, feel free to respond to the email that you'll get tomorrow as a thank you for attending, and share any questions, and I can connect you with the director who'll be able to answer it. And also be sure to visit their websites, which has tons of great information. And for our panelists, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share such insightful contributions. And for our audience, thank you for your engagement. This really has underscored the vital role of Ohio Technical Centers and the part they play in workforce development, and also so many unique opportunities available to individuals and businesses alike. And again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.